show, like, you need to give it to him, but I'm really having a lot of fun with it, and I hope it's really nothing right now, but I hope it turns into something.
No, you're wrong, man. It is something. Yeah. If you just get on a microphone and talk, and I would encourage anybody to do this. This is so much fun. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It can.
No.
You can get stupid and spend a ton of money, but it doesn't have to. I'll give you an example. Did you hear the last podcast I had about me going on the road?
I don't think I listened to that one yet.
Okay, it just dropped Friday, so less than a week ago. Okay. I did that from the Hampton Inn in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Do you know how I recorded that podcast?
Well, I'm going to guess because you did this, I think, in California once, and it was on your phone.
Yeah. You take this iPhone this is an audio, not a visual, but you take this iPhone I have in my hand. I put it on the desk in the hotel room. I put 3 pillows on the desk, laid this one right smack dab into the center pillow, and started talking.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that the audio in my studio is primo. This out here is pretty good, but that wasn't much worse than what's in the studio.
Yeah, and I probably spent more than I needed to, but like some of my stuff was secondhand. It was used. Like my mixing board is I don't think it was that expensive when it was new, but I got it used for $75 and
nice price.
And it was, I think, maybe $200 new, but the computer I already owned.
Yeah.
Okay, microphone. You can get them for $20. I went just a little bit better than that. I think it was about $75 for each mic. The desktop microphone stand. I mean, so I spent more than I needed to, but I guess I'm that kind of person. I want to feel like I'm doing things like, I don't know how you say it, like the legit way. Like if I'm going to, I want the fancy headphones and I want to look like a radio guy. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Well, your audio sounds very good. And I've known people that have had podcasts and the audio it sounds like they're in a reverb room. And I know that's not as big a deal to a lot of people. You know who Jordan Peterson is? Yeah. Okay. I hear his name quite a bit. Yeah. One of the smartest men in the world. He has a podcast. And Russ, it's the worst audio I've heard in my life. This is a guy who is probably one of the 10 smartest people in the world. And I want to say, don't you hear that reverberation? Don't you hear this echo? Close the door. Hang some clothes from a hanger. Throw a pillow on the table. Buy a $40 microphone. Do something. Yeah. I had some sound issues at first, and I think I even had messaged you and said, there's kind of an echo. And maybe echo wasn't even the right word, but there was something not right about it, and I could tell. And so I called my buddy Rob, and Rob's been on the show, so he probably heard his voice, and he's a very smart person. And the electronics and the sound, I mean, that's not exactly what he does for a living, but he just knows all about it. He knows about everything, really. His real job, and we talked about it on the show one time, was he works on, like, medical equipment, and I think specifically he does a lot of work with, is it cameras that are used in radiology? I'm not real sure. It's like lasers and stuff. I don't know. He's very smart. But so he comes over, and as it turned out, I did have some things plugged in the wrong places to where, I was getting sound, but it was like, your headphones should be here, not there. And so he fixes all that. I'm still kind of getting this noise. Well, he just closed the door to the room. It was the HVAC. It was the heater. Yep. And this was back in, I think, February or March. It wasn't really hot yet. But anyway, so the thing was kicking on, and it led to another problem that I didn't even notice. And because then later on I said, well, that's one thing that it's kicking on, but it hasn't kicked off one time. And what's going on? And I found out that there was a problem with some kind of a little control board or a relay, but it was like a $300 thing to get it fixed. But it shouldn't be running all the time. It was probably running my electric bill up anyway. So it was like I figured out that problem while I was figuring out the sound. So it's been really good ever since I got Rob involved and he helped out. 2 shows ago, I'm not sure what we did wrong. I think we were drinking a little bit actually, but it was horrible. Every time Paul talked at all, it was way too. Rob calls it clipping. I'm not a sound guy, but you're clipping. And normally we would catch that right away, but we made the crucial mistake of the computer was pointed at me and Rob couldn't see it. And if there's one person in the room that needs to see it, it's the guy that knows what he's doing. He needs to see the sound bar. And it was very funny, and it was like we had a lot of good content, but the sound was horrible. And but you do want to do a good job because it's not pleasant to listen to like that all the time. Yeah. And so people that normally would have liked you maybe are going to turn it off. I had a podcast not long ago where I had someone on the phone.
and the phone connection just wasn't good. And yeah, the guy had some good things to say, but it was the audio was just wasn't good. It was okay.
I wonder if I heard that. Which one was it?
With Colin Shoei, the old KLPW guy.
And I really liked it because I used to hear his voice all the time on KLPW.
Yeah.
I only got, I used to work at a machine shop in Union, and I had these.
Which one?
Safeco.
Okay.
Yeah, you know them?
Yeah, I do.
Old Mike Sabu, he's great people, great place to work. I mean, it was hot and sweaty, and it was kind of difficult, but I really liked it there. And I had these like 3M headphones with the radio built in, but it's a metal building, so all I get was the AM station. I listened to it all the time, and so I remember him saying he went up, and I'm going to forget the call letters of his station now, but he told you that he was talking about moving up northern Missouri and going to school.
Correct. Yes.
And so I know those letters. What station is that? Well, I'll figure it out next time I'm up seeing my mom. And on the way back home last time from Kirksville, I heard his voice come on, and I was like,
very cool.
I told my trophy wife, I said, whoa, hang on, stop talking for a second. And I turned it up. I said, that's Colin. I know that voice. And
that's right.
I think it's 104.7. I think is the station.
That's correct. Yeah, it's 104.7. I forget the call letters. Excuse me, but yeah, it's a big signal. You can almost get it here.
Yeah,
and it's up in Monroe City, I want to say.
That sounds right.
Yeah. And it's not Monroe City. It's Moberly. It's in Moberly.
Okay.
Is where it is. Yeah, because I've got a customer up there. And, it comes all the way down here. And that's way north of Columbia.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
You can get up, and it goes up into Iowa. It's a big signal it's a 100,000 watt FM signal.
I wish I understood those numbers more, because you always know that. I like when you talk about...
KMOX is 50,000 watts.
Okay,
and you can get that in 36 states at nighttime during the skip. This is 100,000 watts. But you got to remember, AM will skip. FM is line of sight. So if you got a big, tall antenna, even 100,000 watts is only going to go so far. When the Earth starts to curve away, you're not going to get it anymore. It's still a big signal, though.
Interesting.
Like with FM, if you ever listen, like AM will fade and it'll buzz and then it comes back. Whereas FM, you'll have it, then you don't.
Yeah.
Almost like a digital signal. Because when you lose it, man, it's gone.
You know, I always seem like I listened to you on KLPW when you were there, and if I remember right, I think I was in the academy at the time, and also I had a delivery job delivering food, and I was in the car a lot, whether it was lunch break or whether it was at work, and I just discovered you on accident. I'm like, man, this guy's got a neat style. I like listening to him, and then Dr. Dean Adele would come on. And, I mean, there was good things to listen to, but that being said, like it always seemed to me like AM was never as good of a sound, and sometimes you'd have like stations that were, say, AM, but they actually played music. And I thought, well, I understand the talk, but the music don't even sound that good. Like, why would you bother?
Yeah.
Just stick with talk or sports or something like that, it seems like. But, yeah.
Dr. Dean Adele, he was an interesting guy. I heard him one time. A guy called in and said, asked him of his opinion of taking steroids to enhance sports performance. He said, well, that depends. Are you just doing it because you want to play beer league softball better? Or are you doing it taking steroids to impress the girls? Or are you doing it because you're almost there? And if you take steroids and that pushes you over the edge, you can sign a $5 million contract. If that's the reason you're doing it, I'd highly encourage it. He said, just remember, after you make the $5 million, you need to back off.
Yeah.
So there was a doctor who encouraged taking steroids if you can make a buck at it. That was bizarre to me.
Yeah, because I would think, and I know very little, almost nothing about steroids other than what I might have heard on a podcast. But it's not as simple as just shooting up every day or what. I mean, it's like they have to cycle, and you can only do it so long, and you have to get off for so many days.
And you still got to do the work too.
Yeah.
What steroids do, because it's funny, because in Major League Baseball, so many of the guys who take steroids now are the pitchers. And the pitchers aren't muscular guys. But what steroids do is they allow you to heal faster. So you can lift every day. You don't have to have a rest day. Or if you've got a sore shoulder, that shoulder will get better.
Huh.
That's why the pitchers take it, because it heals fast. They heal faster.
Well, in pitching, so I have a cousin who's 8 years older than me, and I didn't really have siblings growing up. I have 2 half-sisters, but I didn't know them until I was in my 20s. And so his closest thing I had to a big brother, and he was always popular and always had the pretty girlfriend, and he was a jock and just everything you wanted to be. And I was just a dorky kid who played violin. But I thought he was the coolest guy. He still is the coolest guy. But he was a pitcher, and he coaches ball to this day, and his kids play, and him and his kids, they're all very talented athletes. But I remember him saying once he had elbow surgery one time, and he might have been in college pitching at this point, but he said the doctor basically told him, the way you throw overhand is really, it's effective, and guys can really hurl a ball 100 miles an hour. He said, but it's really not the way your body was meant to move.
No, not at all.
It's more meant to throw like the way they throw in softball, underhand. He said, so you've been doing it, and you stretch, and you know how to warm up, and you've been doing it the right way, but you've been doing it for a long time, and he could throw very hard, and so it's just a lot of power, a lot of just, tension or, leverage, whatever you want to call it. And he said, this is just bound to happen eventually. It was just gonna happen, man. It is hard on you. It's very hard on your shoulder and your elbow and all that. So, yeah.
Very good. Yeah. We've been at this for an hour and 10 minutes.
Doesn't seem like it.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
Hey, tell me about the Rusty Dale podcast, would you? What's it all about? How do you get it? And what do you all talk about? So for those who want to listen.
That's the first question. It doesn't matter if it's someone at work or just, a friend you haven't talked to in a while. And when they find out, well, what's it about? And the thing is, it depends on what's on your mind that day. It's not like a lot of podcasts are about movies or about sports, but it's not about any one thing. So now we really haven't had guests. I mean, Paul and Rob, I guess you would say are guests, but they've been really incremental in getting it all started. So it almost feels like,
they're part of the team,
kind of becoming part of the show. And I explained to them, don't feel pressured like you have to come over every Friday or every other Friday, and don't feel like it's a big deal because I created it. Like it's my responsibility to record. Well, yeah, but we felt bad. We need to record again. Well, you shouldn't feel bad. It's not your job to worry about.
Sounds like they're having fun and they like to do it.
It's really fun.
And you supply the booze, I bet, don't you?
No, they pretty well bring whatever they want. They might not like what I'm drinking,
Okay.
But having said that, so we really haven't had any, other than us three, really no one's been on the show. But I would assume that the show is going to be about, when I do start having guests, it's going to be about what that person is about, either their job or what they're into. So, I mean, I don't really have a list of people that are coming on. I mean, I had a couple people express interest, but there's no date, but it's just, I think I'm the kind of guy that knows a little bit about a lot of stuff. So I can hang with the conversation, but it's like when Rob starts talking about technology, I've just got to listen to him because I don't know what he's talking about.
That's his forte, right?
Right. So it's about whatever somebody wants to talk about, or it's just about something that maybe happened in our lives. The other day we talked about he just bought a motorcycle, like that same day actually, and so we talked about that, and that led us into a whole conversation about bikes he's owned in the past. And here I've known this guy a couple of years now, never knew he knew how to ride a bike. Oh yeah, well before you knew me, I had this bike and this other kind, and so we had no idea we'd talk about motorcycles that night. I had no idea. It just whatever you want to talk about,
Well, that's the good thing about a podcast. You can do what you want. Hopefully, some people will be interested in it. You'll know by the ratings that you get, and it's a conversation. You have a good time. It's recreation, and you're making someone else smile.
Yeah, and I don't think it ever has to be. It'll never be something that probably makes money, and that's fine because that's not why I'm doing it.
Never say never.
But it would be nice if it got big enough to where there were just more listeners.
Sure.
Not about money. And I got the whole speaker monetization thing, which, I think there's 16 cents in my account right now. So it's like, I guess what it is you allow them to play a commercial before and after the show, and like a fraction of a penny goes in when someone listens or downloads, but it's, after 64 downloads, it's like 16 cents. So that's not really going to make any money,
Yeah.
And I had some ideas like maybe, going to local business owners and saying, well, hey, how about this for a few dollars a month? I'll say your name twice every show, but I haven't been that consistent. So if I'm going to ask people for money, then I need to tell them for sure it's going to be once a week or once every 2 weeks, or
sure.
You can't just start taking breaks and someone's paid you to say their name.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I got some ideas like that I'm working with, and who knows, maybe it'd be big enough one day to get some merchandise, but that seems like very far away, like hats or T-shirts or something. But
Joe Rogan started out just like this, just so you know.
Yeah.
And just him talking smack in his basement or his back room or something like that. He'd have buddies over. It was inconsistent. It was unprofessional. Spotify just signed him to $100 million contract.
Yeah.
So you never know where it can go.
I listen to him literally every day, and I didn't listen to him